craft beer industry really started, as we know it, with the beginning of America. Only in the 60s and 70s did that begin to reverse, and you began to see the return of the community brewery. And this is the real beginning of the craft brewing industry as we know. Craft brewing, however, was illegal up until 1979. It was a relic of prohibition.
States out there that you cannot legally homebrew in. I think Mississippi just came online this last year. Charlie Papazian, kind of the godfather of homebrewing, and really right now the godfather of beer. I don't think you can state that enough. Forming into the American Homebrewers Association, he codified a lot of the things, started getting American craft brew styles listed, starting to get subcategories, and eventually, as things folded up together, he was integral in the final formation of the Brewers Association, which is the trade organization for
craft. A lot of
beer.
influences that these pioneers of the craft beer industry took were overseas. To look back to these guys, but it's also more important to look forward and challenge the styles that we have established. Look at Pilsner malts from Germany. They usually have a very light color, a very subtle flavor background. So they're the cleanest of malts. You look at your English malts, on the other hand, or your Belgian malts, those are the malts that have the biggest amount of these sugar-derived flavors. The melanoidins, the toasted flavors, the color and body-forming flavors. They're rich. And then you look at American malt, and it's kind of in between. It's clean, it has some characteristics to it, but it's very mild, approachable malt. It's getting really interesting with these hop varieties. And unfortunately, the markets are fickle. All of a sudden, we find that we love, say, Columbus. Well, Columbus isn't growing so well in the field right now, so they're trying to replace it. What are we going to do? We have to find a substitute.
We can't get Citra. It was our favorite. We can't get it, so now we've gone to a blend called Falconer's Flight that has Citra as a component. So one of the things that these growers are doing is putting some of those same characteristics of multiple hops to give us that same flavor profile, but to hedge against a shortage of, say, Citra or one of the other new varietals.
When you talk about hops, there's two main descriptors that people use to describe them, and that's the alpha acid level and then the cohominum level, on 50 to 60 new varieties of hops at any given time. You see in a fermenter is as the yeast chew up these long sugars and all the sugar to the great alcohol you want, the alcohol acts as an inhibitor. So as the yeast progresses, it will actually kill itself with the alcohol it's producing. And so you want to find a yeast strain that's tolerant to alcohol, so you get higher. You have a local hop grower here in Arizona, here in Flagstaff, that we're working with. We strive to use local water. Traditional styles throughout the world are defined by the water that's there.
Right now, last year we hit 10.8% of the dollar sales in the United States for craft beer. It's the first time it peaked over 10%. While you're seeing the big guys, the Anheuser-Busch's buying out venerable early companies like Goose Island, we also hit 5.8% of the market by volume in barrels. Transitioning from those light lagers, just like wine went from the Gallo or the Carlo Rossi Rosé in the 70s, we're seeing that same renaissance right now.
Tripels? Yeah, cool. That's a Belgian style. Yeast like to eat that simple sugar first, so they'll eat that up first, and then they'll start working on the sugars from the malt. But you add those simple sugars to lighten the body. It creates a cleaner beer, a drier beer. Arrogant Bastard is, I would say that's an American red. It's kind of the dividing line between a red and an amber. So the amber will always be a little bit sweeter, a little bit more malty and caramel. And the red will always be a little bit drier and a little bit more of the roasted. Lumberyard's not a competitor. We don't look at them as competition. In the local breweries, we look at them more as co-conspirators.
I would never say competition. I'd say we all have our different slant on beer and how we brew our beer. And again, for you guys, diversity of flavors. You don't like my beer, wander down the alley, you're going to probably like one of Gary's beers over at the Beeve. If you don't like his, you can wander over to Lumberyard, try one of those, and you just keep working your way up.